for another fantastic virtual tasting. Everybody in? Everybody see us? All good? Good. I hope so.
Thumbs up. Yeah, that's
Great.
good.
Nice to see you all. Those of you who don't know, I'm Josh Farrell, wine director for Wine Express. This is our next in the series of virtual wine tastings, which we've been sharing with you all, and everyone has enjoyed quite a bit. So we're very excited today to have our special guest. We've been offering this person's wines for what, like 6-7 years now? More.
Yeah.
And from the first bottle we brought in, they were just unbelievably hugely successful. Just really overwhelmed by how people responded to these wines. And so we're finally able to talk face to face with winemaker, vintner, proprietor of the Precision Wine Company, Mr. Trevor Sheehan is here today. Trevor, welcome.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to host this.
Great to have you. You know, it's been all these years and I've never actually met you.
I know.
Finally getting to meet you virtually, which is great.
But no one used Zoom when we first started.
Yeah, right.
Who ever heard of that? But, you know, way back when, I think the first wine we had of yours was the 29 in oak. And wow, what a great wine.
Yeah, thank you.
And just really from there, it's just snowballed. Octopada, Navigator. So Trevor is the man behind all of these great labels that many of you, I'm sure, have seen offered by Wine Express over the years. He has an amazing and uncanny knack for sourcing really, really good quality fruit and juice from the best AVAs in Napa and putting them in the bottle at amazingly affordable prices, which is one of the things we really love about them. So today we picked 3 of Trevor's wines. We're actually going to taste a white wine first. This is actually the first white wine we've offered from you. Let me ask you a question. Have you been making whites all along, or is this something sort of new?
My primary focus is red, but I do Chardonnay and then small amounts of Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay. So we wanted to, sort of branch out a little bit because people had asked us if we could do some white wine. So this is a great opportunity to do that since Trevor does it all. So let me just ask you, Trevor, a little bit about your background. I know you didn't originally decide to be a winemaker, when you were a kid and go to school for it and all of that stuff. You kind of got bitten by the bug, right?
Yeah, so in college, my roommate worked for a big wine retailer in Dallas. I went to school in Texas. I grew up in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got into it, just by going to his wine shop and tasting wines from all over the world. And
so
then,
it was kind of a fluke that you were paired up with this guy who had a wine shop.
He was one of my friends, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to live with me?" He was into wine since he was a little kid. His dad was a big Bordeaux collector.
Okay.
So he'd been into it since not drinking it since he was a little kid, but as soon as he turned 21, drinking French wines and wines from all over the world. And
Nice.
then he did in college, he just loved it so much that he wanted to work at a wine shop just so he'd get discounts.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So then I was drinking the bottle of Pinot from Sonoma, and I pulled the cork out, and it was a phone number. It didn't have any winery and web information on it. And I called it, and the winemaker answered and explained to me how he worked in Wall Street and then quit his job and moved to Sonoma to start making wine. And I was like, well, that's a good idea. I think I want to do that.
And the rest is history, right?
Yeah. From there, yeah.
So did you then contact this guy any further, or it was?
Yeah,
just-
I'm actually very good friends with him. I'm still friends with him today.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
So then, where were you in school?
It's Southern Methodist in Dallas.
Okay, and so then did they have a winemaking program there, or you
No,
had?
it's more of a business and law school.
Okay,
They don't have any, agriculture.
so you transferred to somewhere, or you?
No, so I learned winemaking just from coming out here and doing custom crush and kind of making it. It's pretty easy to start.
Okay,
And I started just with 4 barrels of wine. So I started with 4 barrels of Cabernet from Howell Mountain, and I bought 2 or 3 tons from Andy Beckstoffer
Huh.
from
Wow.
Bernardo's Vineyard. Yeah,
good fruit.
yeah,
Place
it's
to
good.
start.
And that was my first vintage was '08, and that was a really tough year to actually enter into the wine business because that year we had a big frost. So we lost 30% of the crop. So that was a hard year to get access to fruit because there was such a shortage.
Okay, sure. But you wanted to do it the hard way, hands-on.
Mhm.
Just get yourself in there, get your hands dirty, and learn it from the ground up.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then from there, it just started growing. And, one thing I learned is making wine from good vineyards and good AVAs. It just made it easier to sell. And that's how it's been.
Yeah, and it makes good, better wine, right? So you also traveled in Europe, didn't you?
Yeah. So I really got into like Burgundy and Bordeaux wine. So I started going there right from when I started and kind of meeting with different winemakers and different producers there and kind of talking to them about it. And that's how I kind of, like all the different styles and techniques and equipment they use. That's how I kind of,
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good way to learn. See what everybody's doing. Take notes. Well, clearly it's sunk in because you've come up with some dynamite wines. So I don't know, let's go ahead and dive in here.
Sure.
So the first wine is the Sponge Cake 2018 Chardonnay from Knights Valley. So when I think of Knights Valley, I think of Cabernet.
yeah. So Knights Valley is probably the warmest region in Sonoma County. It sits right above Calistoga. Basically, to get there, you have to go through Calistoga. You pass over kind of a small mountain range, and then you're right there in Knights Valley. It's the most eastern part of Sonoma County. So there's 2 mountain ranges in between it and the ocean. So it's definitely warmer, gets a lot of sunlight, not as much fog. So it's more inclined for warm climate rich style Chardonnay and Cabernet. And it's a very small AVA. It's only 2,000 acres, and put that in perspective, Rutherford's 5,000 acres.
Huh.
Then most of
Okay.
it is owned by Treasury, which goes in the Beringer Knights Valley Cabernet. So there's
Right.
not a lot of fruit available for other
Right,
wine.
very
Yeah.
exclusive. So we were talking earlier. I should mention I'm joined by a couple of wine enthusiast team members, Mr. Marshall Tilden and Mr. Gino Crecco. Also, Marco Bruno is here. But Marshall was talking about how this particular wine is exactly his favorite style of Chardonnay. So
So yeah, going with the climate, it's a full ML. It's heavy French oak, and was picked riper above 26 bricks. So it's definitely like kind of a bigger style of Chardonnay.
right, 26 bricks. That sounds pretty high for Chardonnay, right?
But Trev, the French oak, is it how much kind of new and toasted, or how much neutral is used? Is it all new?
Yeah, it's about 60% new. The rest is once used,
Nice.
and I think it's primarily medium plus toast.
Yeah, because you get the full, ML and
Yeah, you get that like popcorn aroma, and that's actually created by a certain yeast that you use in the wine. That's not A lot of people think it's the oak or the ML, but that popcorn aroma that you get,
Which yeast is that? Which one are you using for this? Or is that a winemaker secret right there?
Winemaker secrets.
Yeah.
Nice.
You can't spill all the beans.
That's right.
Yeah, but I definitely get that. I get a lot of fruit too. I get lovely pears in this. I get a little bit of pineapple. Really nice nose on this.
But right, you're not getting like the overly oak, vanilla kind of bomb.
No, more fruit than oak for sure.
Yeah, the wine still has very good acid. The pH is not high, so it interacts better with the oak. If it has high pH, then it won't integrate well, and then it'll kind of overpower.
Yeah, it's a really nice acid, really nice mouth-watering quality. So this is all from a single vineyard in the Knights Valley. Tell us about this vineyard.
The vineyard's over 20 years old. It's all Wente clone. It's all dry farmed. So it yields very low. It's not very, as a grower, it's not super profitable to get dry farm because you don't get much of a crop. So only crop's about 2 tons an acre. And so put that in perspective, it costs about $8,000 an acre to farm. So when you're only got 2 tons to the acre, you've almost have $4,000 of cost just into this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 2 tons an acre is like 2 tons below average, right? Like
Oh,
4
for
tons.
Chard, it's actually less. Chard's cab is like 5 tons, I would say, is the average.
Right.
Chard, you crop heavier. You go probably about 6 to 7.
Okay, so a third of average. So that sounds to me like expensive fruit. And yet this wine is super deal.
Yeah.
You also, if you some growers though, it's expensive to rip up and replant, and it's just cheaper to, kind of hold the property as an investment, right? Versus
Okay.
it can be very expensive to replant, especially with there's so many labor issues right now, and materials have gone so much more expensive, like steel.
Sure.
Like for each vineyard, you need about 1,000 pieces of steel, so it's quite expensive to plant.
Sure.
For each acre, you need 1,000 steel rods. So right, this price of steel right now is basically doubled or tripled. It adds a lot of expense to replant vineyards.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, so you think maybe one of these vineyard owners would theoretically they'd rip up the Chard and put in cab, right? Because they can get more money for it, or
yeah, you would get more. Obviously, growing Chardonnay at 2 tons an acre is not a great business model. But you want to hold the vineyard, you want to put more money into it, so you let it grow. Basically, if you're covering your costs, you're happy.
Right.
So one thing about all of Trevor's wines, and then like Josh said, these through the years of the navigators, the techniques, the octopodas, is the labels, right? All of the labels are just like the precision label that's behind Trevor there. They're just so well crafted and created. So the sponge cake one, at first I didn't quite get the design, but looking at the the dripping wax, it's awesome. So do you use, is it the same artist for all of them, or you spread the wealth?
Almost everything's one artist. We have a full-time art. I didn't want anyone else to hire him, so we basically brought him on full-time just to work on our labels and our marketing material and our brochures and everything we do.
Nice.
Not great. The precision label, which we'll talk about later, this won label of the year from a printing aspect, and that from globally, it won best in the US, and then it won best around the world, and like 10,000 labels get submitted to that. Every year. And then
so that's label drinkers alert.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, it makes a difference. I mean, sure, you want a good bottle of wine, but when it has a really cool label on it, really kind of brings it all together, I think.
Yeah, we put a lot of effort into everything. It's not just if you look at all our glass, all the glass is nice. We never use basic glass. We never use, even our capsules are nice. We don't cut corners everywhere. Every single label we have always has embellishment. It's never just cut and print. So you look at all the labels, they all have kind of like unique, like they have the papers raised, there's foil, there's, spot gloss.
Very nice. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, the bottles are really nice. Nice heavy
The other thing is
bottles.
we only use American glass. So
Ah,
when I first got into this, I did all Chinese glass, and then I was like, it's just wasteful.
Mm.
Shipping all this glass to the US, so I decided I was going to switch to all American-made glass that's sourced locally, so we're not, wasting all this money and,
That's great.
CO2 footprint, bring glass in from China where they don't have any emission standards on their glass. And it was a great decision because I locked in all my glass supply locally. Now with all the issues on with ports and
Yeah.
shipping, it's really helped me out because it's basically it's impossible to get domestic glass right now unless you're already under contract with them.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, and you forget, right, just in the world that we live in right now, the cost, like you said, of the shipping is up, right? Container costs, all these costs, that tariffs, that go into additional wine costs. So being able to lock in your glass suppliers while, keeping the carbon footprint down, but making things efficient and still keeping these wines at such a great value, right? That's a lot of balls in the air to juggle to make it work.
Not easy.
Yeah, I'm thinking, what's the other Chardonnay from Knights Valley? Peter Michael?
Peter Michael, Knightsbridge, kind of too big.
Yeah, and they sell for what, like 5, 10
A little
times?
bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is great.
pretty great.
Well,
Best kept secrets.
and Trevor, I mean, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is probably a wine that'll even age a little bit too, right? I mean, it's got some age.
Yeah, the acid, higher acid wines last longer. They don't oxidize as easily. This wine, it's already 3 years old. It tastes super fresh.
Yeah, the acid's beautiful in this wine. Really brings out the fruit. Very nice. So I guess, I hope we have a lot of white wine fans here who are enjoying this. I know most of us, we're into the reds, but this is pretty nice white.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always get a lot of requests for white, and this is our first white wine in a virtual tasting. So I hope people are enjoying it. If you want to pick up the wine, or if you want to pick up more, the link is in the chat. I'll post it again once more. It's
Reading all the
sponge-
comments here. Thank you everyone for all the nice things.
Yeah. It's the Sponge Cake 2018 Chardonnay from Knights Valley, if you're just joining us.
So our next selection with the award-winning label, the latest Prisoner bottling. So you do a number of wines under the Prisoner label.
Precision.
Yeah. Why am I saying Prisoner?
I know.
That was the last tasting. Precision label. Tell us about
my own precision.
tell us about the Precision wines.
So this is my largest production wine. And then, so when I first started, the brand I came out with was called Ballius. And that was one of Achilles' horses in the Trojan War. And then I named my company Ballius Wines. And the issue is everyone's like, what's Ballius? And I was like, well, it's, I have to get into it, right? So then I was watching TV one day and I was watching the Omega commercial where it showed all these clock gears. And it was like this, obviously expensively done commercial. And I was like, you know what, I should design a wine label based around clock gears. I was like, well, I got to come up with a name. Well, I've learned it's easier to come up with a name if you come up with a concept first. So then, what's obviously the main thing about doing clock gears is that everything has to be done, with precision. I was like, that's a name. I should, come out with wine, but I also call my wine company Precision Wine Company. And then kind of, build everything off this brand.
Nice. So currently you have this Napa Cab.
Yeah, so we have four wines under Precision. Napa Cab, Napa Chard. We have a Alexander Valley Zin, and then we have a Dry Creek Cab.
Okay. So, I know you started primarily doing Napa wines. At least the first wines we got from you were Napa.
Yeah, I
So-
try to do everything North Coast. So, base in Napa, and then I go out from there, Sonoma, Mendo, Lake County, and then I'll do some kind of more entry-level wines from Lodi, but everything within driving distance of where I can go.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard for me to go down the Central Coast and look at vineyards.
So tell us about this one.
So this is 2019 Cabernet. It's from 3 main vineyards: Oak Knoll, which is one of the southernmost parts of Napa, just north of Napa City.
Mhm.
Childs Valley. Now, Childs Valley is heavily underrated. It's got great soil. It's got warm climate. It's very small valley. Everything's tight together. Great drainage. Not heavy water. So really, it makes really concentrated dark wines. And then a little bit from Pope Valley, from the Juliana area of Pope Valley.
So you don't hear much about Childs Valley. That's not an official AVA, right?
Childs is an official AVA. Pope Valley is not an official AVA.
Okay,
Very few people will AVA Childs Valley, just because Napa Valley has more.
right. But where is it located?
So if you drive out, it's kind of on the other side. If you drive like past Pritchard Hill,
Okay,
you drive up. So it's got higher elevation, but it would be basically east of St. Helena, maybe 12 miles.
okay. So a little bit of a cooler
No,
growing
it's
region.
actually warmer.
Oh,
It's
it's
more,
warmer.
yeah. So it's further from the ocean.
Oh, okay,
So oddly enough, as you go through Napa, as you go north, it gets hotter.
right.
Yeah. So, and this is further from the ocean.
Right, but sometimes the elevation can moderate that.
Yeah. So if you go at pretty high elevation, like if you go above the cloud level, then you will get different, big temperature swings. Like for example, say you go up to Howell Mountain, where it'll be really cold in the morning in Napa. If you go up to Howell Mountain, you go above the fog level, and then it'll be warm. It'll be 80 degrees on top of Howell Mountain in the morning, when it's 60 degrees on the bottom of Napa floor.
Right.
And it reverses in the end of the day, where it cools down, and then where Napa warms up.
Right. Very interesting how those temperature gradients work.
Yeah, it's shocking when you actually see it. Like, I think you kind of hear about it, then you actually experience it yourself. It's it's pretty it's very like surprising. Like, because you think you drive up the hill, it's cold. You drive up the hill, it's warm. You go back down the hill, it's cold again.
Right.
And you
Gotta
have
put a sweater on.
elevation. It doesn't make it's like logically doesn't make sense.
So this wine is so fragrant. Its aromas are really jumping out of the glass. Lots of nice black cherry in here. Currants. So again, I don't sense a really big oak presence in this wine.
So for this, for kind of entry level Napa Cab, we try to do all once oak barrels. So I'll buy basically once used barrels from other wineries, where you still get the oak. Everything's really clean, but it's not overpowering.
Right. Just gives it a little hint.
Yeah. So we focus more on American oak, where it kind of works with the kind of style we're going for, versus French oak.
But yeah, it's very like you said, Josh, a lot of red fruits, some nice floral, like really pretty floral notes on this too. But yeah, not a whole ton of that over oak, vanilla adds to it. Clean and smooth were the first two things that popped into my mind. Yeah, it sounds about right, David.
Yeah, So we're just starting to see these 2019s. 2019 was pretty good vintage, wasn't it?
Yeah, 19 was a great vintage. 17 there's struggles. 18 was good. 19 was good. 20 would have been really good. Fires
Yeah.
obviously.
Would have been.
There's still some great wines. Most everything we took, a lot of vineyards and wineries just didn't want to buy their crop, and I picked up a lot of amazing fruit for really inexpensive, and the wines, they're actually very good.
Huh. All right. So we got something to look forward to then. Thank
Yeah.
goodness.
I got a lot of wine.
I was really worried that the 2020s were all going to be, forget it.
Yeah, the shame is so many people threw their fruit on the ground. Like I had one grower I work with who it was his first year buying crop insurance. And so he has 200 acres. So he had 1,000 tons of Cabernet. And first year, right? So, and you're talking $5,000 a ton, 2,000 tons, right? That's what, $1 million.
Yeah.
And he went to his insurance company and said, hey, because they had to pay him, $1 million. And he's like, hey, I'll buy it from you. Right. I'll pay you. I'll take the risk. And they're like, nope, throw it on the ground.
What?
Crazy.
Yeah. It was so, I think,
It's the Bears.
yeah, they normally have like 20 people doing crop insurance for the wine area. And when the fires hit, they had to bring all these crop adjusters on that didn't really know anything about wine grapes. And they just, they went from 20 crop adjusters to like 2,000 crop adjusters.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Our friend Daniel has a question over there, Harrington. What's going on, Daniel?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, we got you.
Oh, hi, Daniel.
We was pretty blessed to get this. It's a 2018 Zinfandel that came to Trevor, this precision. And I was going to ask Trevor, how did you get a 17% alcohol in this bottle? It's huge.
Yeah, but you don't even notice it. That's the great thing about that wine.
It's actually higher.
You're not supposed to say that.
It's like 17. Zin can that is one varietal where if you pick it ripe, it will just ferment dry. It doesn't have issues. And I mean, some of the alcohols on Zin are just.
Yeah.
So doesn't that have something to do with the yeasts?
You need a really hardy yeast because as the alcohol gets higher, it starts killing off the yeast. So you don't want to make wine that high of an alcohol because you risk getting a stuck fermentation.
Right.
And you can't add more. If you kill the yeast, you can't add more yeast because then they'll just die right away. So you run risk when you make wine that high of an alcohol. But yeah, it went completely dry with no problems.
Someone's got Craig here's got an interesting question. What role did the pandemic play with winemaking, if any?
None. I mean,
yeah.
I work from home more. That's about it.
Yeah, it's easier, right?
Yeah.
More masks.
Yeah, we had to wear. I mean,
Yeah.
But when you're pretty much outside and you're in like a cellar, it's not like you're in a crowded environment, so it doesn't have much of an impact.
And it feels like
We sold way more wine, so we had to bottle a lot more.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing that's the pandemic did for.
Yeah, I've been out of stock on so many items for the last year. It's been like we've had to just constantly bottle, and it's it still hasn't ended.
Yeah. It's true.
That's the good news.
Yeah.
What it feels now like, especially just the winery and Napa, Sonoma, things are starting to open back up, right? Employment.
Yeah, they finally opened back up. I mean, it's just been dead for the last year, and now it's just been like, damn, like I can't get restaurant reservations. There's so many people here. So that's it's been hard for me to go out and eat.
Sorry to hear that. You got to bring your own lunch, right?
Yeah, it's a real struggle for us in the wine industry.
Did you have another question, Daniel?
Oh, I was just going to make a statement about his wines that are sold at a local store in town, that everybody loves his wines. The Checkers, that his wines are selling out at this store left and right. They carry them. I don't know where they're getting them from, but they do have them. And the Wine Express 2 is selling out. That Zin is no longer available. Navigator is no longer available.
Yeah.
So glad you found your neck, Trevor.
Well,
Yeah,
that's,
the wines
that's
are
why we
fine.
that's why we try and make sure that when we have these wines that come out, and it's true because the demand and the popularity has just gotten so big with COVID that they sell out quick, and stocking up's never a bad thing. The worst thing you end up with is maybe a little bit too much wine, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we try to let everybody know right away when the wines come in,
Tough.
and then they fly. So yeah, you were saying that you have fans around the world, right? Who
Yeah.
call up and
One thing in 2017, I really focused on opening up export markets. So I did a bunch of international shows, and I was gone pretty much a third of the year. So I did Pro Wine, I did Vinitaly, and I did some. So California Wine Institute, which is a government program, they sponsor export shows. So for free, you can sign up for these export shows, and they set up events in all these different countries. And you start in one country and kind of go. So it's like a 2-week show. You go 7 different countries.
Huh.
And I picked up all these customers. So now I sell my wine, Singapore, South Korea, China, Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, all through Northern Europe. Like California wines are very popular in Northern Europe. Right? It's almost impossible to sell in like Southern Europe, but England, Denmark, they're big markets for California wines.
huh, that's great. And why not? I mean, California wines are absolutely delicious, world class.
Yeah, well, it goes with you can tell based on kind of like the food style where California wines do better. Like China, it pairs better because they have a lot of high spice food. So it's hard to, if you're drinking like a tannic, dry Bordeaux, it doesn't want to go well with something super spicy. You need something to counteract that.
So that's interesting. So you're actually matching up food with the wine with the food in these countries.
Yeah, you can just see it. Like China, they've, they first started, they only drank, French wines, and you just see they've just shifted to.
Yeah, it was kind of a status thing initially, right?
Yeah, it was a status thing, but I think that's just kind of what they thought. Wines made in France, and they've just changed their import market changed to. They just stopped with Australia, but they were pretty much buying all Australia's wine production. To now it's Chile, other parts of South America, and more California.
That's very interesting. So they're becoming more discerning. Their palates are developing.
Yeah, I think it's better, or learning what pairs well with their foods.
Pillar asked, are you in the South America market?
I am not. It's pretty hard to get into South America. I have not had any success in South America. I've done a little bit in Brazil, but they have like all these export standards, and it's in high tax. They basically want to discourage anyone from buying anything except their own wines.
Shame
So I
on
do sell in the Dominican, in Puerto Rico, and like the Caribbean, but nothing south of there, and
Okay.
Mexico. So I sell precision in Mexico.
And you have fans in Korea too, I understand.
Korea is a huge market. It's just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You go there and it's like so nice. It's very westernized. They're a very close ally. And it's just I have all these customers over there. There's this one, my biggest customer is called Inoteca.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually big fans of you, Josh. Like whenever I send out, the way I got Navigator in is they saw one of your videos and then they reached out to me.
In Korea?
Yeah, and now I sell like 10,000 cases of Navigator there a year.
That's great. I'm waiting for my cut. Oh,
Maybe you'll have to move, Josh.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good story.
Yeah.
I'll have to start
Yeah, they
learning Korean.
zip you up on the walls. And I have like 4 or 5 different importers I work with. They all know you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you know, like we said, we've been offering these wines for a long time, really,
Long time.
and loving them for a long time.
So,
So,
so before we go to the next one, I was just going to segue to that. So Trevor, we talked about, 29 and oak. So this was the,
There we
right?
go.
I don't know if you recognize the label there. That was the, if any of you have been around with us for Wine Express for a long time, there was the 29 and oak. This is the 14. I think the 12 was the first one that we did. And it was just through a mutual friend that Trevor and I had. And he was like, hey, my buddy's making some great wine. I said, hey, we sell wine. Maybe you want to send us a couple bottles and we can figure out how to how to make something work. And then I went out to Napa, and Trevor and I had shared a meal, and that was the first time that you had made the method, and it was the Syrah. Remember that one?
Yeah, North Coast.
Yeah, the North Coast Syrah. It was
yeah.
dynamite.
.gov website. Call 1-877.
Okay. So I was just remembering it's been a long haul since then,
29 Oak was such a great name too for a Napa Valley wine. How'd you come up with that?
So it's actually the crossroads in Napa. It's Highway 29 and Oakville Cross. So we did
Right. Sure.
just
And you just saw that one day and said, hey, great name.
Awesome.
It's brilliant.
that's it. Yeah, nothing too exciting on that one.
Oh,
So-
you know what? We didn't talk about the blend on this wine. So this is
So-
not all cab, right?
No, so it's primarily Cabernet. So it's about 80% Cab, and I think 12% Merlot, and the rest is Petite Verdot.
Right. Yeah, I see. I've noticed that you like to use Petite Verdot.
Yeah, Petite Verdot and Petite Syrah, they kind of give a similar result. Petite Syrah is easier to grow. Petite Verdot is actually a challenge to grow. So you think it's such a dark varietal, it has a really thick skin, but it's actually the opposite. It has a really thin skin, but during maceration, the skin kind of breaks up and gives it a dark complex, a dark color.
So it adds a lot of color.
It adds a lot of color. It's very expensive. It's the most expensive varietal in Napa because people use it for color.
Huh.
It
That's
adds,
very-
even like 2% can completely change a wine.
I mean, I've always sort of, anytime I've tried a wine that's just Petite Verdot, I've always got a lot of floral
Yep.
nuance from it. Is that typical or?
Yeah, I think it's dark, it's pearly, it doesn't have, super rough tannins. I mean, I
Right.
think one of my favorite varietals.
Nice. Yeah, and they grow it on the left bank in Bordeaux and frequently added to. It's great classified Bordeaux. I gather for similar reasons. Give it color and
Yeah, same thing. It's a great varietal. The other one, Petite Syrah, that I like to use. It's not a Bordeaux varietal, so people don't really like hearing that it's in Cabernet, but Camus, it uses it a lot. It adds a lot of tannin. It adds a lot of color. It grows really well in warm climates.
sure. And there's lots of it in California.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot out in Lodi. There's a lot in the Central Valley.
Right. No,
Uh,
Petite
Lake
Verdot,
County makes great Petite Syrah.
Petite Syrah is a blending grape you see quite frequently.
Yeah.
And it adds a little bit of spice to the wine too.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are my 2 favorite blending varietals.
Nice.
So we're tasting the Precision 2019 Napa Cab, just in case. I know we've been chatting for a while. Morel said she would pair this with anything, but she wants to know, what do we think? What would you pair this with?
This I would do more with duck or go away from like red meat, kind of go with a lighter meat, pork or duck, where it's not super heavy, where I would put with, steak, but it's sort of like a heavy white meat or like a lighter red meat.
Right. Or like you do it like a roast beef,
Yeah.
right? Without a heavy sauce, right?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's a great wine. It's kind of is intermediary between different profiles.
Yeah, it's very supple. The tannins are easy. Definitely more fruit forward than than structure.
And Trevor, you find something like this is, because like you said, it's kind of entry level cab, but the price too. This is something that's like ready to drink, right? I mean, you could age it; the tannins will settle. But
Yeah, the bottle I'm drinking, we bottled today, and I just went and grabbed one and popped it.
yeah, which is great because it's not, it's nice to have wines that need to age and evolve and get there, and some wines that just pop it and let's enjoy, right?
Yeah,
Right.
no, great wines, very.
Still, I'm gonna recommend you let the wine breathe a little bit, everybody.
Yes, always,
I opened mine about a half an hour before. I think it
Always.
helps.
definitely.
Andres has an interesting question. We talked about like sustainability with sourcing the glass earlier. Andres wants to know, has climate change had a significant effect on your winemaking, particularly with thinner skinned grapes?
Yeah, the biggest thing I've seen, I mean, I can't really speak to climate change because I've only been doing this 10 years, so I haven't seen a huge variance. When I first got into it, we actually had some cold years. The bigger thing I've seen is with like drought and lack of rain. The other issue I've seen is we've had these really big heat spikes at the end of the year where it actually does the opposite of what you'd think, is it kind of shuts the vine off and it causes the wines to stop ripening. So where they actually come in underripe instead of what you would think of as coming overripe, because it's so hot that the vines die and then the wines don't fully ripen. We actually haven't had the issue of having wines be overripe.
So that's has that been coinciding with these drought years, or that's?
Well, so in 2012 it was like the wettest year in like 100 years. 2020 it's the driest year in 100 years. So it's more so you're having like extremes on each level.
Sure.
And that's more causing issues, like people are trying to build more wells. I mean, we get a lot of rain, but we don't have a lot of great ways to capture it, so people are putting more reservoirs and doing things to mitigate that, going more towards dry farming.
Right. Yeah, and I know there's a lot of focus on water sustainability and sort of like recycling water. And
yeah, recycling water is not, you don't really want to do water recycling, because then it's like wastewater recycling. You kind of want to avoid that, but more so just doing drip irrigation, making sure you're putting deeper wells in.
okay. Yeah, so who knows what the future is going to bring, right?
Yeah, hopefully we get
question marks.
Droughts typically last 4 years. We're 2 years into it, so hopefully it starts to dissipate.
All right, I like that. You got your crystal ball.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Xanthos. So this is the 2019 Santos Oakville cab. We've had a couple of these Xanthos wines. We had a 2018 Oakville, and we had I think it was a 2018 Rutherford.
Mhm.
And so this is the latest Xanthos from Oakville.
Yeah, so this is from a single vineyard in Oakville. It's actually almost sits within Silver Oaks property. It's on the side of the Napa River, right off Oakville Cross. It's called Narcy David Vineyard, who was a TV chef.
Okay.
A lot of people are familiar with him. I'm not, I know it because when I tell people, like, oh, I know him. So he was a San Francisco chef. He owns a vineyard up here. It was planted in 1994. It's at the end of its life cycle, so it produces a really low tonnage.
Wow. And right on Silver Oaks doorstep. Huh?
I have to drive into Silver Oak to get into it.
How unfortunate for you, Trevor.
I'm surprised Silver Oak doesn't buy all the grapes. Why don't they buy all the grapes?
I haven't asked.
I guess they don't need them, right? They got enough of their own.
Wow.
So this one's got a little blend in it too, right?
Yeah, so this is Cab Merlot.
Cab Merlot, okay. No Petit Verdot this time. But
No,
still,
Petite Verdot
great,
on.
great color
Yeah, thank you.
regardless. Beautiful aromas, more perfumed aroma on this.
When I first made this wine, I used all German oak, which I only did that once, but
So how is German oak differentiated from French or American?
so Heights uses German oak, but if you look at where the forest is, it's like half the price of French oak, but it's basically the same forest, and it's just 100 miles.
On the other side of the border, huh?
Yeah. So I wanted to try it because it's could you make same quality wines with saving money, but it's hard to find German oaks. Not a lot of people bring the barrels in.
Huh. Okay.
It's got that really classic like black fruit character, Oakville, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
So this is French and American oak, or
It's just French and American. I banded the German oak.
right?
Wow.
Definitely more structure on this wine.
Yeah, no, it's
How
got
much size wise in terms of the acreage, like you're talking about for the precision? How big is the vineyard this is coming from?
I think this is only 10 acres. It's small.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Oh,
low yield.
Yeah, so there's only like 40 tons that come off the vineyard. I think it probably only gets 4 tons of the acres.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Which
So
from that part of Oakville, that's one of the heavier producing areas. It's close to the river, so there's more soil, there's less rock. So you get more, you should be getting more like 7 tons to the acre from that part of Napa.
Huh.
so
Because soil's more
Yeah, there's more water, right?
fertile,
Most
more
of the
vigorous.
water, the more fruit you can get on the vineyard.
Right. And obviously, this is a wine that can age. It's got lots of concentration. It's got that backbone.
yeah. Trevor, someone's got an interesting question just on your process. About from grape, to bottle. I know we can't go into the entire step by step, but for someone like yourself, what does that look like? From April to or from September to bottling, right?
Yeah, so we do all custom crush, so we use other wineries facilities. So we make some wine Carneros Vintners, we do some at Mendocino Wine Company, we do some custom crush at Raymond Winery. And basically, depending on the vineyard, we'll go with the closest site. So limit the amount of trucking we're doing. Then we bottle everything. We have a bottling line in Sonoma that we use, and we have another one in Napa. So we'll crush it and age it all at the same location, and then we'll get it ready for bottling at one of those locations, and then we'll filter at our bottling location.
And are you doing most of the like harvests hand, machine, depends, both, a little bit of everything?
Napa is pretty much all done by hand.
Yeah.
Once you get out into Lake County, that's mainly hand. Or Lake County's more machine, Mendo's more hand. Sonoma's about half and half.
Sometimes it just really depends on the terrain, right? I mean, if you
Sure.
have
Yeah, I mean,
hills, you can't.
there's not a lot of labor. There's not a lot of people up there. It's really hard to get hand pickers. The
Right.
terrain has if it's any type of hillside, or if the vineyard's tightly planted, you can't machine pick it.
Right. So this is, people have like a notion of wine and winemaking, maybe a little romanticized of, your little vineyard outside of your winery. You go out, you pick your grapes, you bring them in, you do your maceration, your fermentation, right? You put everything in the bottle, it all happens in one place. And obviously, you know, the way Trevor runs his business is much more common, much more the way winemakers actually operate, right? You got to go all over the valley to source the grapes. You got to bring them to a custom crush facility. You know, that's not your facility, but they let you make the wine there, right? And then you've got to go somewhere else to bottle the wine, right?
Yeah, there's very few people that do it on the boutique way, and they're very expensive. Like that.
Right.
Look at
That's
what-
what definitely adds to the price.
Yeah, to make like on the places that only crush like 200 tons, I mean, you're talking 10 times the amount of money to just make the wine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just there, either I spend it on the fruit or I spend it on the facility when it's the same thing.
Right.
no-
And so you spend it on the fruit, and that's what we get in the bottle, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a different business model to what a lot of us think of when we think of, you know, Napa Valley Winery, right?
So some of the questions, is there an impact on the taste between hand-picked and machine-picked? There can be. So when you're doing machine, you basically just get the fruit. Like when you're doing it by hand, you're getting all the other stuff. You're getting all the. So for one example, when you machine pick and you crush it, you get about 185 gallons per ton. When you hand pick and you crush it, you get 165 gallons per ton. So you're getting a lot more stem and leaves and everything into the fermentation tank. So you will get kind of more tannin and more other flavors in with the hand picked versus the machine picked. But I mean, it can swing both ways on which one's better or which one's better, you know, which one is more preferred.
It's interesting. I thought it'd be the other way around. I didn't know like the machines were, I guess, that efficient.
Well, the machines shake the grapes off of the stems, right?
So there's a you can either like do a root shaker, which is the less expensive way, and there's another one where it basically operates like a blower, but you can dial them in where they're, you know, super accurate, kind of like an optical sorter,
Huh.
which will use a laser to basically shoot the berries out that you don't want. So they're really advanced when how they're used. And if you set them up right, they can, you know, work out very well.
Wow.
That's great. Incredible.
Yeah, but for hand pick, like high-end wines obviously are hand picked because you can, you know, work with your picking crew to only pick the certain grapes that you want. Where a machine can't do that.
Right.
Right.
And you can select.
Yeah.
Craig
you can-
wants. Oh, go ahead.
You can sort hand pick grapes, but you know, it's easier with machine pick when the cluster's all whole.
Craig wanted to know, do you have to be on site to do all the chemistry during the winemaking process?
No, it's all done offsite. So we'll just do certain analysis on site. Most like the more detailed analysis gets done at a third-party lab.
Okay.
So now going back to food pairing, Trevor, I know, like you said, you can pair everything. See, someone said this I would pair with a juicy steak. What do you pair with this this big boy?
This I'd go more beef steak. It's, you know, bigger, it's stronger. It kind of goes up more, pairs well with something heavier.
Yeah.
Prime rib.
This is a meaty wine, right?
Yeah. And to your point, Josh, too, I cheated. I opened mine yesterday just to take a little sip.
right.
So I've had a full day of aeration, and it is fantastic.
Practice your tasting all day.
There you go.
Exactly.
So let me ask you, what do you think the aging curve on this is?
This I'd probably drink 3 to 5 years,
Mhm.
but I think go longer than that.
Yeah. In a proper cellar, of course,
Yeah, not if it's in your kitchen. Yeah.
on top of the fridge. Yeah.
So Trevor, when you're not drinking your, fantastic California wines, what do you lean towards? What are your sort of go-tos outside of California?
Outside of California, so within California, kind of like older style Napa cabs, like Diamond Creek. So outside California, for whites, I really like white Burgundy, Loire, and I like Northern Rhone, Bordeaux, different parts of Italy.
Me too.
Diamond Creek, huh? That's that's old style.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing property.
Yeah. Also very pricey.
Very pricey, yeah.
So which is anyone have any favorites? Any of our audience?
Question.
I know Xanthos is definitely my favorite.
Daniel raised his hand.
Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to unmute yourself or say it in the chat. if
I'm
you
in,
want-
yeah.
you'd like.
When you were making this Chardonnay, what was your goals when making Chardonnay? What were your goals?
Well,
Trevor?
What was the goal? So the goal was to make something that kind of fit with the area. So it's not where you're gonna make a low alcohol mineral driven wine. So it's a very warm climate. So I wanted to make something that kind of fits that profile.
I have another question on top of that
Okay.
concerning Chardonnay. Some of them get that nutty flavor at the end of it, and I was wondering what is that? Do you know what that is?
So nuttiness, it can either be like mild oxidation, which is actually kind of something like certain flaws in winemaking you actually want, because they can actually add positive notes. If you go too high, then it has a negative note.
Somebody's dog.
The dogs. Yeah.
And then it comes from the oak, so it's derived from oak.
But that's also something you see when you age Chardonnay, right? A little bit of that nuttiness comes in just through the aging process, maybe a little bit through oxidation, but it can really add to the nuances in the wine.
Yeah.
But I guess what you were saying in response to Daniel's question was you're kind of letting the vineyard tell you what kind of wine to make. I mean, you're not going to make Meursault with a Knights Valley fruit, right?
No, that'd be impressive if I could do that.
Would be. but the idea is you've got this intensely flavored, very ripe, warm climate chard. You got to go with what you got.
Yeah, one thing I love about what I do is I make wine from all over the place. I do all different styles. I get to work with all these different vineyards and different.
Somebody asked, I think, if you're going to do any Oregon wine.
No, I did Washington for one customer in Japan. That was a little difficult. I have not looked at Oregon though.
Too much driving, huh?
A little bit of driving, yeah.
But don't those grapes come down to California? I mean, isn't there? I mean, sure, there must be a market down there, right?
There's actually laws against it. Like one thing I think we should implement is Napa. Is like Napa can only get made in California.
Yeah, of course.
Oregon, but they don't have that. Oregon does have that. So if you want to do it from an AVA in Oregon, where you can't make it outside of Oregon and it has to be bottled in Oregon.
You're right. I know that was something with the Wagner family wines, right? Had an issue with that.
Well, no, theirs was a little different. They like had a name of a winery that was something where it was out. It was basically they named it after the AVA, but the wine wasn't from that AVA.
Anyway, so bottom line, we're not going to see a precision Willamette Valley Pinot anytime soon.
Yeah, Willamette, you have to bottle it in Willamette. You can't take it out. So it's a little. I've looked at it. Though. I would like to make Willamette.
All right, but you do make Pinot, right?
Oh yeah, Russian River, Sonoma Coast, Clarksburg. Clarksburg makes really good Pinot. have really good prices.
Right. So Clarksburg, that's in Lodi, right?
It's a
I mean,
little
in,
below that, yeah.
yeah.
But it sits right there on the delta, so it's surrounded. So you've got all these waterways, so it's much cooler than Lodi.
Sure. And so much better for Pinot.
Yeah.
By the way, I just went back to, I had a little bit of the Chardonnay, the sponge cake left in my glass. I just went back to it. It's really, really opening up nicely with a little bit of air now. It is luscious. It is delightful. That's a great value at $15.
All
Really
right,
is.
great. Fantastic.
Well done.
Actually, these are all great values. It's kind of hard to believe how these
Do you have
wines can be so good and so well priced.
Did you have another question, Daniel? Were you raising your hand?
David's gonna. You want to say something?
But no, I'm just really impressed. I met a couple of winemakers. I haven't been doing this very long, but I know what I like. And I'm really impressed with your knowledge, what you came forward with. I have a whole new respect for you as an individual and your wines. Thank you, Trevor. Oh, one more question. No, we'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
And
Okay.
thank you, Josh,
Yes,
and
thank you,
your
Josh.
team for bringing Trevor and his wines.
Very welcome.
for
Thank
joining.
you guys for joining us. This is really great.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been really fun. And like I said, this was a great opportunity for me to finally meet you. Maybe sometime we'll actually get to shake hands or
Yeah, we'll meet in person.
share a glass of wine together. That would be fun.
Yeah, I'll come to New York.
Okay. We're here.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd rather go to California, but
I've been here for a while now.
Cool.
Hey, Marshall.
Yeah.
Marshall, you were saying earlier how you opened that one bottle yesterday, but I noticed every time we talk, you're always saying that, how you always open it up early.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. You talk about opening up early, let them breathe. It makes a huge difference for these big guys. Huge difference. And that's half the fun. You know, we get into a whole thing about decanting and aerating and all that. And the glass, to me, for a wine like this, is really the best place, right? Letting it sit for an hour, enjoying that process. And some wines need a full day, some wines need an hour. The Santos needed a day.
but really it's because you're very impatient. You couldn't wait.
Ask my wife. You're right.
It's here. Let's open it.
Half the bottle empty, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's great.
More questions? Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. This has been really super, really a lot of fun. Trevor, fantastic. Wines are dynamite. Really great to have you talk us through them all and hear all about the process.
Yeah,
Really fun.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank
Really
you for
fun.
the support.
So I guess we'll wrap it up. And until next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Josh.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Available at wineexpress.com.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.